Persuasion is the name of another psychology book I'm going to describe today. Truth be told, reading about psychology makes me more scared because it shows me how simple it is to control someone. The scary thing about these strategies is that most of them are so subtle that your conscious mind can't notice them. They happen in the background. It's kind of like giving someone a magic pill before you talk to them. They start to believe you or act differently after taking it. They think they made a choice and are in charge, but they're not. One experiment sent a very good-looking guy, like a model, to go up to a random woman in the mall and ask for her number so they could go on a date. It's risky to give your phone number to someone you don't know, so the guy got a lot of no's. When he approached a woman in front of a certain shop, she said yes a lot of the time. Can you figure out what kind of store it was? It wasn't a cosmetics or candy shop. It had flowers. While you were sleeping, they gave you their number because, deep down, they knew that flowers were linked to romance. When the experiment was over, the people who gave their numbers were asked if the shop had anything to do with their choice. All of them said, "Of course not. I consciously chose to give my number." In a similar test, a man asked a woman on the street to go on a date. This time, researchers wanted to see how the results would change based on what the guy was holding when he approached the women. One item got a lot of yes answers. Can you figure out what that thing was? In any case, it was a guitar bag. Here's one more business case. An online shop that sells furniture is doing an interesting test. Researchers sent some buyers to a landing page with soft clouds in the background and sent other buyers to a page with coins. When clouds were in the background, people chose furniture based on how soft and comfortable it was. People whose first thought when they saw the page was coins looked at prices and tried to find the cheapest choices. When asked if the clouds or coins had anything to do with their choice after the trial, they all laughed and said no. They said that all of them are independent and aware, and that weather or coins had no effect on them at all. Okay, so far both studies have been about things we can see. Why not use words? Is it possible to get the same result with words? Yes, and here's why. A salesperson wasn't able to sell his $75,000 item. A lot of customers would try to get a better deal every time he said the price. What they did when they couldn't get the price they wanted was leave. Too many people would not buy from them this way. Then, he changed one small thing about his speech. He would joke before he told them the price. Well, obviously I can't charge you $1 million for this product. Whenever he said that, almost no one tried to settle for a lower price or said that $75,000 was too much money. For what reason? Because $1,000 seemed like a lot of money compared to $75,000. I agree with you that jokingly talking about $1 million has nothing to do with the $75,000 product and shouldn't change how people act. That's not how things are, though. The truth is that it changed how people unconsciously thought about the price. Marketers asked people to try a new energy drink and give them feedback as part of an experiment. As you might expect, a lot of people didn't agree, which is fair since the product was new and could cause pushback. So, advertisers tried something else. Before making the request this time, they asked people if they thought they were bold. They were brave and said yes to a lot of them. Then they said yes when they were asked to try the new energy drink. For example, let me tell you about something that happened to me. When I met with a banker one time, we talked about the investment items they had on offer. His talk about a few goods didn't interest me, so I was only partially listening and partially planning when I would leave. But then, before he talked about the next offering, he said something that woke me up, made me lean forward, and made me pay close attention. There was a moment when I fully trusted him and the product, because he said, "The next product I'm going to talk about is the one that I would recommend even to my mother. Robert Cialdini calls it unity, and he probably didn't mean to, but he used one of the most powerful concepts of persuasion. Unity is a shared identity that both the person who is influencing and the person who is being affected have. People who are part of the same identity as us make us want to say yes to them more than people who are not part of that identity. When someone tries to communicate with us, we are much more likely to trust and work with them if they can show that they are part of the same group as us first. Here's an example. A big question for investors has always been, what will happen to Buffett's company, Berkshire Hathaway, when he leaves? I will tell you what I would say to my family today if they asked me about Berkshire's future. Buffett wrote in a letter to shareholders about succession plans. This was very convincing because it made it sound like he was giving advice in the same way he would to a family member. The family is the most important way to bring people together. To help family members, some people will do anything, even put their lives at risk. If you want to persuade people who aren't related to you, Robert shows you how to use family-driven togetherness. Robert had his college students and their parents fill out a survey for one of his classes. It was always very easy for students to follow the rules, but parents often didn't, with response rates often falling below 20%. The answer rate from parents went up to 97% with one small change. What little change did you make? Robert promised that the kids would get an extra point on one test if their parents filled out the survey. It doesn't matter if you get 1 point on one test during a semester-long study. Most likely it wouldn't change the student's final grade in any way. The answer rate went from poor to almost perfect when he brought up the idea of helping a family member. What these studies and cases show is very important. In other words, if I can get your attention on something else, like being helpful, fair, or romantic before I say my message, you will become helpful, fair, or romantic at that time. With other words, I can change who you are in that moment by using persuasion. I have the power to change who you are, how you see yourself, and how you see me and my message. That being said, the next experiment is pretty cool and will help us understand why we are so easily swayed. Researchers in Belgium got a group of people together and showed them a picture of a common home item with a different picture on the background. People were split into 3 groups. In the background picture of the first group, there was a single person standing alone. In the background picture of the second group, there were 2 people standing next to each other, and in the background picture of the third group, there were 2 people standing shoulder to shoulder. In order to see which of these 3 groups would get down on their knees and help, researchers stood up and dropped a few things on the floor by accident. Only 20% of people in the first and second groups helped, but 3 times as many people in the third group, who saw a picture of 2 people standing shoulder to shoulder, helped. I don't think this is the most interesting part of the test. Most interesting about this experiment is that the children who took part were only 18 months old, couldn't talk much, and couldn't use logic. This experiment shows how basic this process is, which is why everyone can easily be affected subconsciously, no matter how smart or logical they are. Research shows that putting a picture of a thinking man in the corner of someone's screen while they work on a job makes them more careful and less likely to make mistakes. Or, putting up a picture of someone winning a race makes them do better in the race. Let's see how we can use what we've learned from these studies in real life. First, I'd like to give you an analogy that will sum up everything we've talked about so far and make it easy for you to understand what these studies are really trying to teach you. Picture yourself putting down a seed. Select a high-quality seed and properly prepare the dirt if you want the seed to grow and produce fruit. Whatever kind of seed you use, it won't grow if the dirt isn't ready. We can use this comparison to say that the message you use to persuade others is the seed, and this book and all the tests and examples you have heard so far are the soil that the seed grows in. What you say to convince someone is important, but what you do before you say it is sometimes more important. It means that your seed is important, but first you need to make sure that the dirt is ready for the seed to grow. In all the tests, you saw this for yourself. There was always a sentence, a request, or a picture that changed people's behavior totally before the message came through. Now let's talk about those 6 tips I told you about earlier. 1. If you're giving a free product to a customer, you might want to give it to their family instead of the customer. That could work better. Remember the trial with parents and students? 1 point made them more likely to answer. 2. Let's say you have a product and want your customers to help you make it better. Don't ask, what is your feedback? You can ask, what do you think about this product? Even though the difference is small, it has a big effect because the word advice brings people together. To get someone's attention, say advice. To get their attention, say opinion or feedback. As you may have guessed, This one has to do with the idea of togetherness. Think back to the Warren Buffett example and the time I met with the banker. 3. If you want to ask for a pay raise at work, do it after getting good feedback from people or after doing something great at work. Currently, the focus is on the outcomes of your excellent work. This tip is about the experiment with the energy drinks. 4. In order to get other students to donate to a cause, you can say that you are also a student. This will automatically trigger the unity principle, which will lead to more donations. Once more, this one has to do with the unity concept. 5. Decorate your space to help you reach your goals. Before I read books like this one, I thought it was silly to put encouraging quotes or words on office walls. You've likely seen words and terms like bravery, success, winning, quality, customer first, and so on. These things do seem to work and have an effect on us without our being aware of it. Now that you know what you want to achieve, think about how you can organize your room to help you get there. When my goal was to make $10,000 a month, I bought a fake stack of $10,000 bills from Amazon and put it on my desk to help me remember my goal. I put a phrase that said, "Make money work for you," in a frame, and put it on my desk when I wanted to spend more. Also, you can change small things, like the picture on the screen of your phone or computer. No matter what you're doing, you can listen to different kinds of music. Do a search on Google for music for focus and listen to it while you work on the job that needs your full attention. I always watch a video from my favorite YouTuber before I start writing stories like this one. I enjoy watching his videos because they are well made and he can make hard things easy to understand. Playing some of his videos without paying attention to them before I start writing scripts gets me in the right frame of mind, where I'm also focused on quality and simplicity. 6. Make sure the person is in the right frame of mind before you talk to them. To explain, let me give you an example. I once tried to persuade a coworker to change how we were working on a project. Both of us knew that this change would be good for the project, but he didn't want to make it because it would mean more work for him. We had fought a few times in the previous days, so he was in a mood where he would just say no to anything I offered. When I tried to persuade him twice and failed, I used a strategy from this book, and it worked. Why did I do something different this time? I started the conversation by asking, "Do you remember 3 months ago when you suggested a change that I didn't agree with but agreed to make because it would be good for the project?" Nodded his head. I told him, "Okay, today our project is much better because of that change you suggested. I didn't want to do it at the time, but I agreed with what you said because it was best for the project. You and I weren't the focus. What was important was the job. Right now, I want you to make a change, which we both know is best for the project. So how about we both put our pride aside and make the change I want to see?" His answer, "Yes," ended the story. This worked because I changed his mind from fighting to thinking about what was best for the project. Just think about your own life. You've probably been through similar things. There are a few things you can say or do before you give your message that will help the other person be more open to it. Do you want them to be honest, loving, fair, or willing to work with you? Decide what you want, then find a line or something else that will get them in the right frame of mind. Then send your message. Of course, do it in an honest way. All of them, not just this one. You may wonder, what will happen if I don't do it right? What would happen, for example, if you used them in a way that wasn't right in your business against your customers? That's right. Your workers will figure out what you're up to and start being sneaky with their own customers, like you. So it's very likely to go wrong. Also, remember that these kinds of tricks can work on anyone and that you are not immune to them. For instance, a coworker or friend might tell you about a small favor they did for you before they ask you to do something big. When they mention the small favor, you'll feel compelled to help them back. Our DNA tells us to help people who helped us, and it's hard to avoid doing so. There will be no problems as long as the favor they ask for is equal to the favor they gave us. A small favor is sometimes just a way for them to get you to agree to something much bigger. When this happens, don't answer right away. Let them know that you'll think about it and let them know what you decide. If you rush, you'll probably say yes to what they ask and then feel bad about it. I've been through this more than once. I've agreed to do things I later felt bad about. Lastly, My first goal with this video was to make you more aware of the weaknesses we all have so that you can protect yourself. My second goal was to show you how you can use these weaknesses in an honest way in your life, job, or business. I trust that you found the video helpful. Watch the video on your screen if you want to see more videos like this one. Have a wonderful day.